This is Inu, or that's what we'll call him. He lived 7,000 years ago, long before anyone could write a name down. And Inu is about to do something no human has a record of doing before him. It's night. He's sitting by a fire with a handful of small bones, ankle bones from a sheep, 4 uneven sides each. On a whim, he tosses them into the dirt to settle an argument. Highside takes the last of the meat. He wins, and something lights up in his chest. A jolt, warm and electric, in the oldest part of his brain. Inu doesn't know that jolt has a name we'd invent thousands of years later, dopamine. He doesn't know he's just placed the first bet in recorded history, and he has no idea that 7,000 years from now, that exact feeling will be engineered into glowing machines built to keep people pulling a lever until the money's gone. Inu just knows one thing. He wants to throw again. Right now, somewhere on Earth, a few million people are chasing Inu's jolt, a lottery ticket, a poker hand, a coin flip over who buys lunch, and every one of them thinks they're doing something modern. They're not. So today, we're chasing one deceptively simple question. When did humans actually start gambling? The trail goes much deeper than you think, and it ends somewhere genuinely uncomfortable. Let's work backwards. First stop, 1895, San Francisco. A car mechanic named Charles Fay gets tired of card games and builds a machine with 3 spinning reels and a bell. The slot machine is born, and casinos will never be the same. But that's barely yesterday. Keep going. 1654. Paris. A professional gambler with a fabulous name, the Chevalier de Mirae, has a problem. If 2 players quit a dice game halfway through, how do you split the pot fairly? He asks his mathematician friend, a guy called Blaise Pascal. Pascal writes to another genius, Pierre de Fermat, and in that exchange of letters about a gambling debt, no exaggeration, modern probability theory is born. The mathematics behind your insurance, your weather forecast, and the algorithm feeding you this video. All of it started because one gambler wanted his money. Gambling didn't just borrow from science. Gambling created some of it. And gambling didn't just create mathematics, it created literature too. In 1866, Fyodor Dostoevsky, one of the greatest novelists who ever lived, wrote an entire book called The Gambler in 26 days, because he was drowning in gambling debts and needed the advance to pay them off. He wrote a masterpiece about gambling addiction, while in the middle of a gambling addiction, to pay for the gambling addiction. You genuinely cannot make this up. But let's jump properly back now. Ancient Rome. Here's the part they don't teach you in history class. Gambling in Rome was illegal. Dice games were officially banned, except during Saturnalia, the December festival when all the rules flipped. Did the Romans care? Not remotely. Archaeologists find dice literally everywhere, in army camps, in taverns, in Pompeii. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon shouting a gambling phrase, Alea iacta est, the die is cast. And then there's Emperor Claudius. Oh, Claudius, the ruler of the known world was such a dice addict that he had his traveling carriage specially modified so he could keep playing on bumpy roads without messing up the board. And, I love this, he wrote an entire book on dice strategy. A Roman emperor wrote a strategy guide for gambling. The book is lost, which might be the greatest literary tragedy nobody talks about. Oh, and one more Roman detail because it's beautiful. Archaeologists keep digging up ancient dice that are loaded, weighted on one side, drilled and filled with tiny drops of lead to land on 6 just a little more often than they should. Some are thousands of years old, so if you ever feel bad about humanity, remember that for as long as we have been gambling, we have also been cheating at it. The scam is as old as the game. Now, deeper. 3,000 years ago, ancient India. In the Rig Veda, one of the oldest religious texts on the planet, there's a poem that stops you in your tracks. It's called The Gambler's Lament. Listen to what it says. A man describes how the dice have destroyed him. His mother-in-law hates him. His wife pushes him away. He's lost everything. He knows the dice are ruining his life. And then he admits he still can't walk past a game without joining. That is a textbook description of gambling addiction. The craving, the ruin, the relapse, written more than 3,000 years ago. We didn't discover problem gambling in some modern clinic. A poet nailed it before Rome even existed. Around the same era, over in China, legend says a general named Zhang Liang invented a lottery game, what we now call Keno, to fund an army, and that lotteries later helped pay for the Great Wall itself. Great story. One problem: there's no actual document of a Chinese lottery until the 1800s. So, let's be honest and stamp that one. Legend. Fantastic legend. Zero receipts. Egypt then, 5,000 years back. Tomb paintings show pharaohs playing senet, a board game full of luck, where your moves were decided by throwing sticks. And here's where it starts getting strange. Senet wasn't just entertainment. Egyptians believed the game mirrored your journey through the afterlife. The luck of the throw was the will of the gods. But the trail keeps going. In the ruins of the so-called burnt city in Iran, archaeologists found the world's oldest known backgammon set, board, pieces, and long dice, 5,000 years old. In Mesopotamia, 6-sided dice, basically identical to the ones in your board game closet, from 3000 BC. If you time traveled 5,000 years and dropped a modern die on the table, nobody would blink. And then, at the very bottom of the archaeological record, we hit them, the knuckle bones. Astragali, small ankle bones from sheep and goats, 4 uneven sides each, so they land with different probabilities. Nature's own loaded dice. And if that description rings a bell, it should. These are Inu's bones. That handful by the fire from the very start of this video. People rolled them across the ancient world for thousands of years, and the oldest ones we found go back roughly 7,000 years. Older than writing. Older than the wheel. Gambling isn't part of civilization's story, it's before the story. But now, the twist. Because those same knuckle bones had a second job. When archaeologists dug up hundreds of them beneath an ancient city in Israel, they realized the bones weren't just for games. They were for talking to the gods. You'd ask a question, throw the bones, and read the answer and how they fell. Divination. Fortune-telling. The exact same objects. The exact same throw. One day it's a bet. The next day it's a message from heaven. And suddenly the whole picture flips. Gambling and religion grew from the same root. The throw of a die was never just about money. It was humanity's oldest way of asking the universe, what happens next? Which brings us to the deepest, weirdest layer of all. Because maybe the question, when did humans start gambling, has a trick hidden inside it. Scientists at Duke and Johns Hopkins built what is essentially a tiny casino for monkeys. Rhesus monkeys, given a choice between a safe, small reward and a risky long shot with a big payoff. And the monkeys? They gamble. Consistently. Enthusiastically. They prefer the risky bet, even when it costs them. Researchers even found the specific patch of brain that drives the risk-taking. Switch it off, and the monkeys suddenly play it safe. Think about what that means. The urge to gamble isn't a human invention, like agriculture or Instagram. It's older than our species. We never really started gambling. We inherited it. And then we built temples, casinos, and entire mathematical sciences around an itch we've had since before we were human. So, here's the honest answer to the question in the title. The oldest gambling equipment, about 7,000 years. The oldest gambling addiction ever described, 3,000 years. The urge itself, millions of years, sitting in the wiring of the primate brain. And one last thing before you go, the reason that itch never dies. Your brain's reward system fires hardest not when you win, but when you don't know yet. Dopamine peaks at maximum uncertainty, that agonizing, delicious moment when the die is still rolling. The brain doesn't reward the answer, it rewards the question. And modern gambling machines are engineered around exactly that flaw. The near miss, 2 cherries, and the third one juice slipping past, lights up your reward system almost like a real win, even though you lost. 7,000 years ago, the trap was an unfair sheep bone. Today, the trap is designed by engineers with dopamine charts on the wall. Casinos figured out your brain long before the scientists did. So no, you're probably not going to outsmart a 7,000-year head start, but at least now, when you flip a coin for who buys lunch, you'll know you're performing one of the oldest human rituals on Earth. If you like stories that dig up where our strangest habits actually come from, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. I'll see you in the next one.